If you recall from a couple weeks ago, we decided to review this RX-78-2 SD Gundam model kit, and it was quite a bit of fun. I noted how, even though it was a very simple model kit, I was able to put it together rather quickly and then spend a lot of time customizing it with some paint markers to really make it look a heck of a lot better than it did when it came out of the box. This week, we're going to stay in the theme of the Gundam model kits, and even within the same SD Gundams. So today, rather than reviewing RX-78, we will review his rival. In Char's MS06S Zaku 2. But what is this doing right here? Just one of those pesky Kingu stickers you can get if you go to the Discord and ask for one. The link's below if you want to check it out. But now that the box is unobstructed, we can take a look at the graphics on the front. We see a strange 3D CG model of the Zaku in question, and of course there's actually a couple of green Zakus around as well. The Red Zaku is of course outfitted for the one and only Char Ensemble, or Char Ensemble, depending on how you like to say it. There's some branding here for SD Gundam Generations F, and of course the name up top, Bandai logo in the corner, and a Gunpla logo right down here as well. Both the top and bottom sides actually show the same graphic and a smaller version of the logo. This side is some legal text, and this side actually shows the model put together in a couple different poses, and I gotta say, it looks pretty good from here, but we know that it's not going to look quite that great when we open this up and take a look at those runners. This is of course painted. Let's take off this little plastic belt here and open it up. Now then, with all of that pesky packaging out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at what's in the bag. Or should I say bags, because there are two bags here with a couple runners inside of each one. There's a little pamphlet as well showing off the Zaku looking rather cool on the front there, and of course inside we are just going to get some awesome pose shots, some other advertisements for the Dom as well, and even it showing it fighting RX-78 in space, as well as once you open it, some more details here for color guide and stuff like that. When fully extended, we have the entirety of the instructions. Very simple, only 9 steps that it shows, of course, for the different pieces that you assemble to put together to make the whole unit. Rather easy. Now, let's open the bags. So then, we have a total of 4 runners if you would count the tiny little one here. This is just, of course, the different joints for the arms and legs. So, count it if you like. Very minimal stickers, which I do rather like. There's, of course, the eye is a sticker, which does upset me, but I don't really see how else they could have done it. So let's take a look. We have the shoulder pauldrons here, some of the tubing for the neck and whatnot. There's actually a separate color of the red, which is nice to see, a sort of maroon for the chest, as well as the bazooka, the axe. There's a lot going on here, but there's the bottom of the feet, and of course the head right here. All looking very cool, and of course our shoulder pad, rather nice. Now this kit was incredibly cheap, only $5 US, or like 600 yen I think it was in total, but very cheap, and you can get these done very quickly. So if you are interested, these are a great quick little kit for you to kind of just have fun with. Now last time it was very easy to get the parts off of the runners, so I don't know if I'll need my clippers. It's actually feeling a little stronger than the last set, so I guess we'll use clippers, which is going to make this take a little longer, but let's get into it. So with that extensive build and the panel lining all out of the way, let's take a look at the figure itself. Once put together, it actually looks pretty darn good. It looks great for an SD Gundam. It's very imposing. I really love the way it turned out. It's got a nice bit of heft to it. It's kind of chunky, hilariously, when you look at it here. It definitely commands a different amount of space than the RX-78, which is a little bit taller, whereas this one is, like I said, a bit thicker. With a ruler up to him, we can see that he is just under 3 inches as far as his head goes, but the horn does artificially raise him just a little bit taller. Now, if we move him over and compare him to RX-78 of the same type, we can see that RX-78 is quite taller when you actually look at it. But it's not in a way that makes RX-78 look that much better. Now, this is all a result of the fact that the Zaku literally does not have legs. It simply just has pegs at the bottom of the skirt that plug into the feet. So I think these are from somewhat of a different series, but they look fine next to one another. I think they look great together, and I'm going to enjoy posing them. So let's get a little further into articulation, because this was an interesting one to put together. For an SD Gundam, it was a little bit more complicated than I thought. He has some interesting articulation, whereas on this side of his body, he has a simple peg that just plugs into the shoulder of his arm, which allows that to swivel, of course, and you can really just kind of get a slight in and out there. The arm actually kind of is limited by the shoulder pad, but it's really not that big a deal because this also is on a ball joint, which allows this to swivel around as needed. So you can kind of get a little bit more out of it that way. So he has a simple hinge for his elbow, which allows it to go in and out just slightly, and of course swivel as well. His hand is unfortunately just a very simple fitting, which allows it to spin only on a swivel, which is very limited, but still, like I said, there's just really not that much articulation needed for these tiny little guys. Now, his head has left and right. You're gonna be very, very lucky to get decent up and down there. It's nothing really. And hilariously, his visor comes up just a little bit so you can move the eye from side to side, which I do rather like as a feature. Now his other shoulder is much different because if you take a look here, this one is actually on a weird little joint inside that allows us to pivot all the way outward, which is really nice. Now once this is plugged in, we can see that this allows his arm to come all the way out so that he could hold his gun in a certain way, I guess. Still though, I rather like this, and of course, you could even make him shoulder check people like that. It's an interesting joint, I'll say that much. Was it necessary? Not really, but I do appreciate more articulation on one of these kits. The rest of his arm is the same, and his shoulder pad is similarly on a ball joint that really doesn't do too much. Now his waist is a simple peg joint, which will allow it to swivel side to side. Finally, his feet are both on ball joints, which allows them to rotate, move side to side, do pretty much anything you need with those, but he doesn't really do too much as far as posing his feet because, well, look at him. But let's go over everything else, because as you can see, I only put one sticker on him, and that's his eyeball itself, because that dark gray plastic is hard to paint on, and I didn't really have the time to fully do this. There's very light panel lining here. It's not the best, but I used a very thin marker, and I think it does add quite a bit, especially when you look at the tubing here. That helps a lot, because it was really plain on its own. Overall, posability is just fine. Like I said, these are SD kits, and they don't need that much to be fun, because they're more like toys rather than model kits, I guess. But while RX-78 only came with his rifle and his shield, the Zaku here comes with quite a few weapons. I mean, he's pretty much got his own little armory here. The first weapon we're going to look at is, of course, the axe. And I actually did paint the very edge of it, which is supposed to be yellow as per the color guide. And yeah, it looks okay. It's a nice little piece, and I'm sure that you could do some more panel lining to make it look even better, but it is what it is, and this is exactly just perfectly fine with me. The only thing that sucks is the other side is completely hollow, so take pictures of it from this side and not the other. This weapon here is labeled the Beam Bazooka, which I do rather like the sound of. This iconic weapon here is labeled as the Zaku machine gun, which is pretty hilarious. And this final weapon is labeled the 280mm bazooka. Rather specific as far as the measurement, which is pretty funny. Another thing you can do is actually take the clip, I'm assuming this is, from the top of the machine gun and actually attach it to his little butt here. I don't know if there's any significance to this, but it was on the packaging that way. I don't really remember the Zaku having this, but I could be wrong. I probably am. So again, I need to drive home the fact that these kits are only $5 a piece, so the value here is amazing. I really can't find too many flaws in this, other than the fact that the decals really don't match the colors of the armor, so I didn't wind up using anything but the one on the eyeball. And sometimes the posability is a little difficult. The fact that he has no legs and only feet makes it kind of hard to put him in standing positions that are just anything other than a simple static pose. If you had a stand, you could make him do some cool flying poses, but I don't have that much to invest in these little $5 kits. He comes with a decent amount of accessories, which I do appreciate, but the problem is he's really not able to hold any of them all that well to really use them against RX-78 here. So it's a little bit of a blessing and a curse. You have all these accessories, but really nothing to do with them. Still, I do appreciate the kit and all of its complexity. There's a lot more going on here as far as the build went. It looks small and simple, but if you watch the build video, you'll understand that there's quite a bit more to actually putting this thing together. This took me far longer than RX-78, and still, I had a great time doing it. It wasn't difficult at all. You can knock this out in like an hour and still have the rest of the day to play with these. So I do rather like this, but I still think I want something a little bit more, so stay tuned for more model kits. But what did you think of this? Was this cool, or was it corny? Did you like this kit, or should I throw it away? Comment below and let me know, and like the video if you did like it. I'm going to link the previous RX-78 build on screen, so even if you've seen it, make sure to click that. And I'm going to link something random, so check that out too. Long live the glory of the Principality of Zeon. Thank you so much for watching, have an amazing weekend, and keep on collecting. Sieg Zeon!